So I think last time we agreed to continue with your questions. Last time it was only fiqh questions, but we agreed that this time it will be open-ended questions on whatever subject that you desire. And the subject I got in the feedback you gave to Sister Iman before last week was questions regarding, issues that non-Muslims raise about Islam and Muslims that are difficult for Muslims to answer. So I don't know if you got the information or not, but so if you have any questions, whether those or any other questions, we can take them tonight, inshallah.
I have a question.
Sure.
This may be out of subject. This is regarding deceased people. Like if you lost parents, is it allowed to? I heard that making dua is the best thing. Is it allowed to read Quran? You read Quran, like make dua afterwards. Is that allowed?
Your question has the answer. You said, I know the best thing to do is to make dua.
Yeah, I started with that.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the best thing to do, to make dua.
There are many things that a child could do for their parents after they pass away. Before making dua, the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ says, if the son of Adam dies, all of his work ceases to exist except three things. One is a recurrent type of charity. If he left something running on for him by way of benefiting others after him. Okay? So for example, if the father or the mother who passed away, left an orphan to be taken care of, that they used to support, one of the greatest thing that you continue the charitable work that your parent used to do. This becomes sadaqah jariyah, okay? A recurrent type of charity or reproducive type of charity. The second would be ilmun yuntafa'u bih, knowledge that benefits. And definitely every one of us had at one time or another one of his or her parents saying something good, right? Advice, anything that they advise you to do, whenever you use it, they benefit from your practicing of it. Whenever you teach it to someone else, the benefit goes to them as if they have taught that person. Whenever that person practices it, they also get benefit. And whenever that second person teaches it to someone else, the same, it keeps coming. So any knowledge they advised us that is beneficial and good, when we practice it or teach it, they get reward. Okay? The third would be عمل ولد صالح يدعو له, a righteous child that would pray for them. So before praying, one has to put some effort to become righteous, which means acceptable in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that their prayer is also acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alaykum as-salam. So those are three things that you could do after your father or mother pass away, and those reach him with huge reward. Okay? The best dua, we learn it from the Quran. In Surah Al-Isra, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us and says, وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِ صَغِيرًا, and say, O Allah, forgive them like they taught me when I was young, as they have raised me when I was young. I was helpless, they helped me. I was needy, they supported me. All of that. وَقُلْ رَبِّ ارْحَمْهُمَا كَمَا رَبَّيَانِ صَغِيرًا. Say, O Allah, give them mercy, shower them with your mercy, as they raised me when I was young. Barakallah fiqh.
So
Yes.
you cannot read Quran when you are in sujood, right? Part of the prayers, it's not that you can recite Quran in sujood, is that?
You do not recite Quran when you are in sujood, but you can make dua when you are in sujood. And the best dua is dua we find in the Quran itself, or the dua that we learn from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if the dua happens to be part of a Quran, that's okay. You can do it in your sujood.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there such thing as a sunnah wajiba?
Yeah. Sunnah comes in varieties of classifications. في sunnah واجبة, which is mostly what is mutawatir, which means something that the Prophet ﷺ kept up with all the time. Then ulama say that must be something very important. So wajiba means something that the Prophet did on regular basis without interruption. It was the norm. Okay? Sunnah manduba is what the Prophet ﷺ did from time to time, which means like he did it once or more, but he didn't keep up with it like the sunnah wajiba. All the sunan, by the definition of a sunnah, sunnah means something righteous that you do in following up of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and all the sunan that you do, you are rewarded for it if you do it, and you are not punished if you do not do it, unless you ignore it completely and deliberately. So ignoring it becomes a sin. Okay? In the hadith, the Prophet ﷺ says, "Man raghiba an sunnati falaysa minni." He who abandons my way, which means my way of living, my way of ibadah, my way of obedience to Allah, then he is not part of me. So that puts the sunnah in another context, which is the sunnah, which means the way of life, not just a limited practice of something. Okay? Good question. Okay.
Salatul Duha. Some people told me that the Prophet used to skip sometimes.
Yes, yes. But it is something that normally he would keep up with. Okay? And it runs between 2 rak'ah and maximum of 12.
Salatul Duha.
Yes.
I thought only two.
If you do 2, you pray duha. If you do 4, you pray duha. But all the sunan, the Prophet ﷺ used to do in sets of 2, except for the watr. It's 1 rak'ah. Yes.
So is the witr sunnah wajib?
The witr is sunnah wajiba. Yes. Yes.
Which is sunnah wajiba.
Yes. Because the Prophet ﷺ never missed it, like Fajr is the same. He never left it even when he was traveling. He would keep up the witr and the Fajr, sunnah. 2 rak'ah before Fajr. So the session's original platform is to take questions on matters that non-Muslims ask us that we don't have ready answers for. So if you remember any of those questions.
I don't really have a question, but I noticed an observation of their attitude. When they ask you a question, even if they know nothing about Islam, they'll come to you extremely confident and putting you in a defensive position where they're in the driver's seat. I don't know if you noticed that.
Some do that, yes. Yeah. Well, it's normal. They know nothing about Islam. And as we always say, الإنسان عدو ما يجهل. Man is an enemy for that which he doesn't know. So they come with animus attitude because that's where they are. Because they don't know. So they ask aggressively, and some of them, they ask with vengeance. They want to put you in a corner and render you helpless and unable to answer.
Yeah, so I think the first thing I try to determine is which are they, that type, or they really want to know the answer to the question they're asking.
I think we should all assume the question as a way of learning. السؤال نصف العلم. 50% of knowledge comes through questioning, and the rest, it comes through lectures, hadith, khutab, things of that sort. But questions are 50% of the way to seek knowledge. So we should assume innocence until the attitude comes.
I just think they ask you a question that's extremely loaded question.
Yeah.
And it's loaded, and even when you start answering the question, they're not even listening. They're gonna be on to their second question, because there's a strategy. So that's why I see, are they asking because they really want to know, or are they asking to put me in a corner?
Well, if they do this, that means they have poor communications or bad intention. In one of these two cases, you should teach them how to communicate. You should tell them, you ask the question, would you give me a chance to answer? If they don't give you a chance to answer, don't answer the second question.
Yeah.
Because communication is supposed to be two-way, right? So if they give themselves the right to ask a question, they should give you the right to answer. They cannot take both rights and run. Yes.
I've had people who are not Muslim. They think they know that Islam means submission.
Yes.
So they would think that, oh, I'm doing these good deeds, so that makes me in submission to God, so that makes me a Muslim.
Can you repeat the last part?
So they will think that because they think they know that Islam means to be in submission, they will think that by doing good deeds, they are in submission to God.
Yes.
And that in itself makes them Muslim.
Well,
How do you counsel them that there's more to it than that?
Well, Islam is not just doing good things, because the Quran acknowledges that some non-Muslims do good things, and the Quran addresses them by saying, أذهبتم طيباتكم في حياتكم الدنيا. You've wasted your good deeds in this life, because in this life they get everything for free from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? So Allah provides for the Muslim, for the non-Muslim, for the atheist, for the agnostic, for everybody. Everybody's got some of the bounties of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when a person says, I'm doing good things, that means I'm a Muslim. No, it means that you are doing good things. That's what it means. But a Muslim is one who submits to Allah. Submits to whom? To Allah, right? And to submit to Allah, you have to believe in Allah first. You have to believe in Allah. You have to believe. And a Muslim is someone who, before he submits, is someone who believes in Allah, believes in the angels, believes in the books, believes in the prophets, believes in the day of judgment, believes in the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And after he believes, he declares his shahada, which becomes the first step into submission. The beginning of submission is shahada. Shahada that what? Shahada that I believe in all of the tenets of Islam. Then come the pillars of Islam. So I believe in all of this. I enter into Islam by the declaration of shahada, and then I pray 5 times a day. I fast the month of Ramadan. I do my charity. I make Hajj and Umrah if I can afford it. Right? This is Islam. But doing any good thing is good for the person. We cannot tell him, don't do any good thing. We tell him, the best thing to do is to submit. And to submit, you have to believe. To submit to Allah, you have to believe in Allah. And you have to believe in what Allah sent you of a message. And in the message, major items of faith must also be believed in. The angels who send us things and pray for us and protect us and record our deeds. The prophets who bring us the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, give us role models, and they guide us how to live a godly life. So the prophets become very important, and the books that Allah has sent to prophets like Moses, Abraham, Jesus, and Muhammad, all other books that we do not even know, we believe that Allah sent His message to these prophets, right? And then we believe in the hereafter. There's accountability. There's a day of reckoning when we have to be questioned and we have to be answerable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Islam has to be submission to God according to the guidance of God, not according to what I pick and choose. And the best submission is to submit my will to His will. Submit my action to His pleasure. That's submission. I hope the answer is clear. Okay, very good questions. Yes.
From the scholars of the past, specifically within the Tabi'een, were there any of them that had learning disabilities growing up?
Learning disabilities?
It's like ADHD maybe, or any type of learning disability. Because oftentimes what happens is you find certain kids who have a certain learning disability, and due to that, there's this, I don't want to say stigma, but they don't have, they're told that they have a learning disability to a point where they feel as if they're less, in other words, if you get what I'm saying.
Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala provides for all, the able, the disabled, the handicapped, the stuttering, the articulate. He provides for all. So if Allah gives you certain powers and He doesn't give you certain powers, He would not charge you to do what you could not do. This is the bottom line. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها. Allah does not charge a soul with that which it cannot do. So disability or lack of ability or absence of certain skill that others enjoy would also mean that you are less responsible or only responsible for what you can. And that is true for every human being. Let us say a person who has all his faculties running fine, but he became sick. He cannot perform what he would normally have been able to perform. So in that case, he is temporarily unable to do certain things, right? So as Muslims, we know that being tested by Allah is the crux of this life and what it stands for. خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم. So how else would we be tested if not by challenging things? So disabilities are one way to test us. Lack of ability, lack of faculty, somebody who was born blind, okay? Or somebody who turned blind, okay? Like now I remember Abdullah ibn Maktoum, okay? The mu'adhin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was blind, okay? But you don't see in any of the literature anything that stigmatize him with any label, okay? They may only call him al-a'ma because that is what he was known for, but not to chastise and stigmatize. Okay? The Quran called him the same thing. And جاءه الأعمى. Okay? And I'm sure that there could have been others of the Sahaba, like there was a Sahabi called Al-A'raj. He was limping. He had one leg shorter than the other. That's his creation. Okay? It's okay. Stigmas grow in uneducated societies. The more advanced a society is in terms of education, the more they have respect and empathy and a system to support those who are less fortunate in terms of resources or faculty. Our societies, unfortunately, do not display that kind of empathy and sympathy with those who are less able or disabled. But that's not the way I would imagine the Sahaba would do anything like this.
The only reason why I asked is because I know this kid who he has a hard time sticking to the subject, and he goes off in crazy tangents.
Easily distracted.
Yeah, he gets easily distracted.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when it comes to memorization, he's very solid when it comes to memory. It's just he has that one thing that does not allow him. He can't start a book and finish it. He will start a book and then go to another book, go to another book. So I remember he came up to me one day and he told me that his teacher told him that he has a learning disability. And because of hearing that, it pretty much made him feel far more less than everyone else.
Well, everybody has more abilities in one area or more than others. You may be very good with math, but Yusuf may be much better in English, and vice versa. So we all have different levels of skills and different levels of interests in certain things that distinguish us from others. So if his memory is great, but his ability to do math is less, well, that's his weakness. It's not a disability. It's a weakness. And any weakness in our life, if we just start do more practice where we are weak, it kind of like mitigates my weakness to do more practice where I am weak. The most unfortunate thing is that some parents steer you away from your weakness to let you focus on your strengths, okay? Instead of telling you to balance so that you don't lose your strength and you do not miss areas where you may be weak. Okay? That answers your question. Okay.
Can I add maybe something?
Sure.
If I can add, you can turn that into a positive. You can say, look, number one, it's good that you know it early on. Now you can work on that thing, right? Number two, it makes you stronger. It sounds like you're an auditory learner, so you can learn things through auditory, and have your teacher, help you get other resources, for example. So there are other ways of looking at it. I think even Imam al-Bukhari, I'm not sure, but I believe he was blind, and that's what made him at a young age. I think it was him.
He was blind. He was born blind, and his mother prayed to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala earnestly, and Allah returned his sight for him early on in his life.
Yeah, and some people say that's where he got his great ability for auditory, for memory.
Memory, yes.
So you can, I would flip it on him and say, wow, you're such a good auditory learner. You can use that instead of looking at it as a weakness.
What I did was I explained it to him from my own experience. I'm more of a visual learner than I am a reader. If I was in a class setting, I can't be sitting in the back, I can't be sitting in the middle, I have to be in front for me to be able to pay attention. And in a way, I connected with him as just, I felt like, knowing of names within the scholars that we respect who had learning disabilities, like Because many of these kids, alhamdulillah, being in the masjid environment, they hear these names. You know, if you were to go ahead and tell them, you know, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal maybe had this, and I don't have anything clear about Imam Ahmad or any of the scholars. That's why I asked you the question. If I was to tell them, you know, Fulan had a learning disability, and you know, look at him, mashallah, he's produced so much towards the religion, or he's produced so much towards, you know, towards Arabic. In a way, it would give them a sense of motivation. That was the reason why I asked the question.
Yeah, I believe that what Sister Iman is talking about is very important. That defining your weakness gives you the strength and the opportunity to face it as a challenge, and sometimes you can turn a challenge into an opportunity, because when you focus on something, you do better on it, okay? And most of the skills we need in our life, unless it's a faculty that you are totally deprived of by creation or accident, most of our excellent things that we do, they come through the experience of practice, much more than anything else. So the more we practice anything, the more powerful we become in that field, in that subject, in that area. So practice makes good. Inshallah. Yes.
Learning or seeking ilm. If someone wants to
Yeah.
read Sirah,
Yeah.
you know, or
Yeah, I think that when it comes to increasing my level of knowledge as a Muslim that wants to understand and practice Islam, it should start with my duties first. So what do I need to know? And while there is some area of knowledge that is a must for every Muslim, why? Because it's a duty on every Muslim. Let us say prayer, I must know my prayer. Wudu, I must know my wudu. Tahara, I must know my tahara. Okay? Bir al-walidain is a must. So I must learn how to be good to my parents. Raising children for a parent is a must. So anyone who gets married, it becomes a must for them to learn about children, their raising of children, what needs to be done with children, so that they are ready to take on their responsibilities. So responsibilities are not limited to what we regard as technical ibadah only, like salah, zakah, fasting, and hajj. Those are ibadat. But I have other duties beyond my ibadat. So I need to know those. I need to learn those areas. Whether they fall in fiqh, they come in tafsir, I go after the knowledge wherever it is. The ulama divided learning curricula so that it's easy to put the knowledge under a title. And they learn this from the A'imma of Hadith and the A'imma of Fiqh, like Imam Ahmad and this, because they classified the knowledge, like for example, Fiqh al-Ibadat, that's Fiqh, right? Then Fiqh al-Mu'amalat, that's Fiqh, right? Then Fiqh al-Akhlaq, that is also Fiqh, that's knowledge, okay? And then understanding the Quran, they label it as tafsir, interpretation, right? So you have those areas of knowledge, and wherever you are required to do a certain duty, you pull the knowledge from wherever area you could trace it.
To give
Follow up.
yeah, follow up. There's a book by Ibn al-Jawzi where he's written to his son advice to the seekers of sacred knowledge.
Yeah.
And this book is actually available on iBooks.
Yes.
I just recently found out about it actually, and
Yeah.
it covers what you were just talking about.
Yes, there is a lot of writings on the area of seeking knowledge. Specifically on the area of knowledge, Imam Ghazali has written a lot. He also has written a book labeled أيها الولد المحب, my lovely child or my lovely son. And he delineated in that book areas of knowledge, areas of manners, areas of this, pieces of wisdom, how to purify yourself, things of this. It's a very small booklet, but very wealthy book. I think it has been translated, but I don't know if it's available as a PDF or not. Maybe Abdullah can check. أيها الولد المحب.
But as far as Ibn Jawzi's book, it's available in both English and in Arabic.
Yeah.
Is it, did you say it's audio?
No, it's an actual iBook.
Oh, okay.
So you can download it straight on your iPhone.
Ebook.
An ebook, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Electronic form. Okay. Any other question? So basically, it doesn't look like you have questions from non-Muslims that you need answers for.
I think so. The questions I have is actually, it's not Muslim, but it's Muslim.
It is Muslim, that's okay.
Yeah. So if you are in an environment where majority is a non-Muslim, but there are some Muslims, and you practice, so you wouldn't say they don't practice, but anything you say, this is Salah time, I have to go for I have to do my Salah. And then we say, no, you don't have to do that. It's not. You don't have to put it on time. And because this is not Saudi.
This is not?
It's not Saudi.
Ah,
Saudi.
yeah.
Yes. And so, and then anything Islamic rule you want to practice, and the Muslim will tell you, you can do that. This is not Saudi.
Oh, wow.
How can we deal with those kind of situations?
Who is making that assumption? Is it a child or an adult? An adult.
Yeah.
Maybe they thought that Islam is a Saudi religion and certain things the Saudis do and others don't have to. And that's definitely is a misunderstanding.
The Muslim who says that?
Muslim, yeah.
Yeah. Because nowadays, unfortunately, a lot of misinformation is thrown at the community. I was talking today after Zuhr about the importance of celebrating our Eids, Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, vis-a-vis joining the celebration of others, of days that they regard as important for their history or nation or culture. And I was citing the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that when he went to Medina, he found the people in Medina, the Ansar, joining celebration with other community members in certain days, and they have no reason but they are with the community. So when the Prophet ﷺ asked them, why do you celebrate those days? They say, those are days that we regard as important in the pre-Islamic Jahiliyyah. Then he said, Allah has substituted for you two better days, the day of Al-Fitr and the day of Al-Adha. And I explained, I said the Prophet ﷺ, he is not making a suggestion. He is not telling them, do you want me to suggest other days? He is not making a proposal. He is not saying, let me propose for you. He is saying Allah is the one who chose the Fitr and Al-Adha to be your Eid days. And he also labels them as better days than any that you may celebrate. Okay? So after I finished, a person came to me and he said, Sheikh Shakir, is this deen or is this fiqh? And I said, when you say it, what do you really refer to? When the Prophet speaks, is this deen or is he talking as a faqih? When he says Allah chose for you something, is this deen or not deen? And what do you mean by fiqh? Fiqh is opinion. I said, well, the Prophet was not answering a question. He was explaining where Islam stands on this subject. He wants us to understand that Allah, when He designates days, as I explained, He wants us to pay attention that those days are important according to Him. So you celebrate a day because your nation became victorious. Like the Romans used to celebrate when they are victorious, the Persian used to do the same, so those became national days, right? But for us Muslims, we celebrate the days that Allah tells us are important and valuable in His eyes. So we cannot ascribe importance and values for things other than what Allah ascribes importance to. But nowadays, unfortunately, some people, and I'm going to use the Quran because I like the wording of the Quran, because it's the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abdullah or Yusuf may be able, or even Ubi can also help us with this. Did I say it right? Yuba, I'm sorry. They can cite the ayah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا الْقُرْآنَ, do you remember? عِضِينَ فَوَرَبِّكَ لَنَحْشُرَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ لَنَسْأَلَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ عَمَّا كَانُوا يَعْمَلُونَ. Okay? So, in this ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pointing to people who take the Quran as bites. عِضِين from عَضَّ يَعُضُّ, which means a bite. So they take a bite from here, and a bite from here, and a bite from here, and this is Islam for them. So Allah will ask them, you think that the bite you got is Islam? Or just a part of it? But some people want to tear the Quran, tear Islam into parts. They pick what they like, and they leave out what they don't like. So they decide to give it labels that have nothing to do with the original teachings of Islam. We learn that our deen is what we learn from Allah in His book or from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's Islam. And when people say Muslims do this, Muslims do that, well, these are the actions of Muslims. It may be obedience, it may be disobedience. It may be good understanding of Islam or misunderstanding of Islam. It may be mispractice or good practice. So Islam is not the actions of Muslims. Islam is what Allah says and what the Prophet ﷺ says or does. That's Islam. So the issue that this is a fiqh issue, the purpose behind this question is actually to tear Islam into pieces. And when you say this is fiqh, it means it is subject to anybody's understanding. No, but fiqh is not like that. Fiqh is what scholars have worked their tails off to produce of how to apply rules of Islam into reality. That's fiqh. So any non-scholar, his opinion is immaterial because he can badly misunderstand either what he's talking about or what he's speaking of evidence or how he understands the evidence or how to relate the evidence to the issue at hand. There's a lot that it takes to be a scholar in Islam, the basic of which is basically the language of the Quran, the Arabic. But unfortunately, some people think that this is a good way to get a handle on Islam, but they are not. They have not studied Islam enough to know what they are even talking about. Yes.
The question that I have was a question that was asked me on a few years ago. I was giving a talk in front of a mental health staff, Department of Health in Ohio. And everyone who was sitting there was non-Muslim, and the majority of them were Caucasian. And we were talking about, what's good and what's within the community and how to handle the Muslims who were in the mental health hospital. And then I've seen the institution, and I noticed they had the rooms built like vertical. Here are the men and here are the women, and they're all facing each other. And these are people who have mental health issues. And the doors are left open at night for in each room. So I was advising them on, redesigning the institution, and basically, the mental health institution, and then hopefully having the men face that way, the new building that they're building, and the women on the other side, facing the other way. Alhamdulillah, they were able to do that. They built a new building and they redesigned it completely different.
Oh, very good.
But some of the questions that came in addition to that was, they asked me, so what is this honor killing in Islam? And I had to think on my toes quickly, and what I said was there was nothing called honor killing in Islam. You don't kill someone and call it honor killing. But I always wanted to ask, because they accepted it, and we went further and discussed, but still I wanted to get a scholarly response to that question, because I'm sure it's going to come again.
Yeah. Well, first of all, Islam prohibits vigilante justice. Even when somebody kills a family member of somebody, the survivor of the family cannot use vigilante justice. What is vigilante justice? Vigilante justice is, you kill my son, I go after you or your son and I kill you, without resorting to a system of governance that keeps each person at bay, and in the middle is a system of justice. So how does the Quran treat this? The Quran says, وَمَنْ قُتِلَ مَظْلُومًا فَقَدْ جَعَلْنَا لِوَلِيِّهِ سُلْطَانًا فَلَا يُسْرِفْ فِي الْقَتْلِ إِنَّهُ كَانَ مَنْصُورًا. Al-israf fil qatl here, let me explain what the ayah is saying. Anyone whose loved one is killed, let him not add to the killing by vigilante justice, by revenge killing, right? Because there must be a system of justice, there must be justice authority to hear my complaint and to hear the defense of the murderer, and to look at the circumstances and judge who owes what to whom and how to deal with the situation. Okay? So this is about revenge killing, which is different, right? Also for revenge killing, Islam instituted the system of retribution, which is qisas. And it goes also through the justice system. You have to go through a judge, submit a complaint, provide evidence, then the other person will provide his defense as to what happened, what the circumstances were. Okay? What you're talking about is a different issue, but it is in the area of killing as well, which is honor killing. Honor killing is not condoned in Islam. There is no provision in the Quran or the Sunnah to encourage it, to support it, or to even allow it. Okay? Even if somebody's daughter or son committed zina, they cannot kill them. They can't be the judge, the prosecutor, and the executioner at the same time. They can't. there is a system, and the system calls for justice, not vigilante justice, which is they must be presented to a judge who would look at the evidence and make judgment. Okay? Some people, for example, accuse their children of zina just based on inferences and calculations, but not on real evidence. Real evidence in Islam is when you are one of four who would witness the act of zina itself. And if you are even a husband for someone and you doubt that she must have committed something wrong by way of zina, you cannot make even a complaint unless you have three more witnesses. So the Quran deals with this issue in Surah An-Nur. وَالَّذِينَ يَرْمُونَ أَزْوَاجَهُمْ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُمْ شُهَدَاءُ إِلَّا أَنفُسُهُمْ. They have no witnesses but themselves, right? Then they go through a process called mula'ana, that he would swear by Allah 4 times that he is telling the truth, right? And she has committed zina, right? This is not somebody who inferred or concluded by logic that she must have been committing zina because she is coming out of the hotel and he came after her from the same hotel. It's not evidence. It doesn't show the act. Where is the act of zina in this? Somebody's coming out of the hotel, some other. You have the right to doubt, but if she's coming out of the hotel, it's not evidence. It can cause doubt, but doubt cannot substitute for facts. So some people accuse each other by doubts, not by fact. So to protect everybody, the Quran instituted that there must be a system of justice to sort everything out. And then after that, the system will decide whether he or she is guilty or innocent based on the evidence. Okay? So the Quran in Surah An-Nur says, if you saw your wife committing zina and you wanted to establish reason to establish justice against her, then if you don't have other 3 to back you up who have seen what you have seen, then all what you can do is to ask Allah, to swear by Allah that she has done it. You swear 4 times. If you swear the 5th and you were lying, then your destiny is Jahannam. And she will swear that he is lying, and if he is telling the truth, then she will pay in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Bypassed that, and he just killed his daughter just based on his doubt. And he just culturally, in a Muslim country, what would happen to him?
In a Muslim country?
Yeah.
There is no Muslim country that applies Islam as it should be.
So what would happen if, what does happen in reality? What does happen when he does kill his... He goes through the system and he just killed her?
No, most Muslim countries will treat him as a murderer, not as a savior, not as an executioner of justice. Nowhere is it acceptable that this practice is to be condoned by the system. Yes.
I know that in Asian countries, the honor killing is when the girl, sometimes the girl get out from elope with the boy and they get married, and then the girl's family, they killed the girl even though they are married. So according to them, that is not halal because their parents are not there.
Of course, it's not halal. It's not accepted in Islam.
Can they kill? No.
If it is not accepted, how could I say yes? You say, can they kill? If it is not accepted, how could I say yes, they can kill?
Now the marriage is, they're saying the marriage is not acceptable.
Well, the marriage is not acceptable to the parents. Are you asking if their opinion matters? Of course it does matter. Of course it does matter, especially if the girl is a virgin. A virgin has a wali amr, a guardian, somebody that she must refer to as, thank you very much, as her father or her guardian who must approve the marriage. No, she asked if she had a wali. She did not ask, I take it, if she engaged the wali in marriage or not. That is a given, she did not. But she was asking if she had a wali. How could she get married without a wali?
She get married in a court.
That
How will
is-
the court let
In
her?
a court.
Huh?
In court they can.
That's
In the court they can?
In Asia, in Asian countries, they can go to, or they can just get like three or four people with them and go to
Two witnesses.
witnesses here.
Yes.
they bypass the wali and the court allows it?
Yeah.
Huh, I never heard that.
Many people like that.
It is because most probably in those cases, either she is not a virgin, or that the Hanafi madhab is what they apply, because the Hanafi madhab do not hold on to the issue of wali. They say if she is mature, if she is aware of what she is doing, if she can make good judgment on her own, then she doesn't need a wali. But that's only the madhab of Hanafi. Yes.
I just want to come back because there's no confusion, because I don't want anybody leaving here believing something different. Still, the killing is wrong.
Yes.
Because what they're doing.
What we're talking about here is marriage, not the killing.
Yeah, because I just wanted to, because what's
Thank you.
happening in this environment.
Thank you. No, we definitely are not at this point discussing we discussed the killing, and we said there is no allowance in Islam for it. Honor killing is absolutely prohibited. Okay? Under any circumstances. Even if the father had seen the girl committing actual zina, he cannot kill her. Some people, unfortunately, they act on instincts and impulses. So their brain becomes excluded completely. So they see something wrong, they act on it. That's it. Irrespective of Islam or anything else. But it is counted as a crime in Islam. جزاكم الله خير.